Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another Beard Guys Patreon exclusive creator help session. Today I'm going to talk about audio. A couple of people mentioned that'd be useful, and it's something I care a lot about and wanted to talk about. So I'm going to talk today specifically about voice audio through your microphone for stream, particularly a little bit for video, but mostly geared around streaming, as opposed to your audio from your game or from your desktop sources, such as your alerts and stuff like that. So just focusing on voice for today. So I take great pride in our audio. It's always something I've looked for to keep it a high standard. It always used to annoy me before we did content, or when we started doing content, when I'd see videos on YouTube with really bad sound quality, and it still annoys me when I see people streaming and it sounds terrible. I find it hard to watch, and I don't know how they can listen back to it and think that it's okay. It's not okay. You can have good audio. You don't have to invest loads of money or do anything crazy to have half decent audio. So to talk about what we use now and what we've used in the past, I think is going to be useful for you guys and girls. So we began using USB microphones. We used, I think, a Blue Snowball or a Snowball Ice, one of the round, cheap USB Snowball mics that are very common in streaming and videoing, or they used to be, certainly a few years ago, maybe a little bit less so now. And that did us okay. For a while, they had adjustable settings, so you could use them for sort of close pickup or far pickup, but they had some issues. But we still managed to get fairly decent audio quality out. Our very first videos sound pretty crappy, but a little bit later on, we got these nice microphones we use now, this one here, in about 2016. But all videos prior to sort of June 2016 were on USB mics, and some of those still sound quite nice. And there's aspects of audio you can make sound good by working your room and your physical setup correctly, and there's aspects you can fix by having the right microphone, and there's aspects you can fix with the post-production side of it. So I guess it probably makes sense to quickly talk about the room setup initially before we move on to the other stuff and things that I think help a lot in having good quality audio. So for us, I think the key things in terms of room setup to help for us have been to make sure you're as close to the microphone as possible, whilst having the input, if you do have an adjustable input on your microphone, having that fairly low and keeping yourself very close to the mic. As you can see, I'm pretty close to it. Sometimes in the past we've had it so had my microphone up there so it was out of shot of the stream and stuff, and adjusted levels appropriately, but it just doesn't have quite the same quality. The further away it is from your voice, the more you're going to have to turn up the input on it, and the more background noise it's going to pick up. Also, having the sound in the room, have a nice dead room to record in. When you're in a music studio, if you've ever been in one, they have a very dead sound because they have a lot of soft furnishings. They have a lot of padding, acoustic foam, and stuff like that to stop reverb and stop echo. And we've kind of got the same here. I bought a load. I'll just show you on the other camera if this works. So this is from our setup video I did a while ago. This setup has changed a little bit in terms of lighting and stuff, but you get the gist. This is my desk over here. This is Lammy's, and we've got this foam up on the walls here. The rest of the room, it's quite a small room. It's pretty square. It doesn't go back much further than when I'm standing, but it's carpeted. There's a sofa, and then there is this foam on these walls here, and it does make a huge difference. Originally, I just bought all this. I bought a bit of foam because it'd be useful for audio, but mostly I bought loads of it because it was cheap, and the wallpaper was really, really crap in the room. So instead of redecorating, I just shoved acoustic foam up everywhere. That stuff helps a lot. And if you have any kind of semi-permanent space, or even if you don't, but you can make, you don't have, this is just stuck on the wall because it's my house and my room and whatever. No one really cared. But, you could make a wooden board with some acoustic foam stuck onto it that you could hang up when you streamed or something. Even if it's just 4 panels of it in front of you, on the wall in front of you, really helps with stopping echo and reverb coming back onto the microphone when you're recording. So if you're sitting downstairs in your kitchen and you got wooden floors or a big open plan downstairs, it's always gonna sound worse. It's gonna sound worse whatever you do. So the room you're in and how the room is set up helps make a huge difference. And also, like I said before, keeping your mouth as close to the microphone as you can. Obviously, you need to be careful about picking up breathing and stuff like that, and you drinking and other gross sounds that people don't want to hear. but some of that we can deal with some filters, some live post-production, or I guess that would just be pre-production, just production. I guess it's happening live. We can do that with some filters in OBS. In video, when you're recording for video, it's easier because I could just record something, go back, and then edit out all of my and my breaths, and if I, breathe deeply and creepily into the microphone. But on live, you can't do that, so you need to process that live, and we will talk about that in just a minute. So just as a quick example before we move on I mentioned that we used to use USB mics and the quality was okay, and let me just give you a quick demonstration of that with this video here. So this is from December 2015. So this is 4 years ago. I think we started the channel in 2013 we started the channel, and we started in World of Tanks in about February of 2015. So this is pretty early on, but I'll just play this video for a sec so you can hear the audio. This is recorded on our Blue Snowball USB microphone. Particular tank, and share with you the highlights of those battles, followed by a short summary of my silver earnings in those games. I've tracked all my battle data across those 25 games, all solo battles with no ops turned on, and will give you a summary of the most interesting parts at the end of this video. Premium tanks in World of Tanks are... There you go. Thanks, Ben, from 2015. Yeah, so as you can hear, it doesn't sound too bad. It probably sounds noticeably different to what I'm saying now, to the recording now in this video, but it certainly doesn't sound awful by any stretch, and that is with a pretty cheap USB microphone. And that was with pretty much the same setup in terms of we had the foam up. I think that's... Did we have the foam up? Maybe we had the... Maybe we didn't have... No, I think we had some foam. Well, I don't know. We might have had some foam up. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. That was just using a USB microphone and using it correctly. So you can make that work. I mean, back... Very early on, I remember me and Lamb used to record in here. We'd have one USB microphone. We'd both crowd round it on one desk whilst we played something single player, both talking into the same mic, and we'd hang a big duvet up behind us on a coat rail or something to try and dampen the sound down a bit. And so that was what we were doing in early days. We'd have a duvet or hung over the door back there sometimes, just to make the sound in the room a little bit deader. So deadening the sound in the room just helps so much. However you can do that, if it's a few panels of acoustic foam, if it's hanging a duvet up on the door behind you, if it's, putting a rug down or whatever, anything you can do to deaden the sound in the room can help so much. And even if it's just the little corner you're facing into, doesn't necessarily have to be the whole room. If you've got something on the back of the corner you're facing into, that can really help, because then it stops the reverberations from around the room coming back and hitting the mic quite so much. So that's the sort of setting up the room part of the video, and just talking about what we used to use. Talking about what we use now and the more digital side of it. So software-wise, I stream using OBS Studio. That's what I'm recording this video with. When I'm recording pure audio, we used to use Audacity. I sometimes still do for little snippets of audio, but I mostly just use OBS now because I've got the filters set up just how I like them, so that's kind of fine. But Audacity we used to use for all our audio recording when we recorded more YouTube content rather than now. Our YouTube content is mostly just stream highlights that I edit down. So we use OBS Studio, and hardware-wise, we upgraded, like I said, in summer of 2016 to using XLR mics rather than USB mics. So we now use Samson CO1s. So we use these Samson CO1 studio condensers. They're not expensive mics, really, relatively, about 50 quid each. We've got two of those. The difference between these and a USB microphone like we used previously, like a Snowball, that plugs directly in USB to your computer. For these, they have an XLR connection, which is this fat 3-pin connection you can see there, and you have to run that into some sort of thing that can handle that connection, such as an audio interface. So we have two microphones, and then we have one of these. There's loads of different brands of audio interface. We use an M-Track 2 Plus, I think it's called, which is a 2-channel audio interface. You could use a 1-channel or a 4-channel or whatever, however many channels you feel you need. I feel the difference in price between a 1-channel and 2-channel is probably not much, so maybe just worth getting a 2. This was a really nice upgrade for us, and there was a couple of reasons we did this upgrade. It wasn't just purely for quality. Some of it was for quality, but another reason was when we were recording, we used to record, when we still do, both of us sitting here in this same room next to each other. And when we did the USB microphones, we had to do it with 2 separate USB microphones, and we couldn't record them into the same computer at the same time because the sound card on the computer couldn't handle 2 channels of USB audio. So we had to record to 2 separate, a laptop and a PC, on these 2 microphones in the same room, and we'd sit here and we'd be like clapping, and both clapping, so we could use the claps to sync up the 2 audio tracks recorded separately on 2 versions of Audacity, and then when I edited, I'd have to sync up those 2 audio tracks with the video as well, and it got quite fiddly. And if they're not perfectly in sync, you get a little bit of echo from the 2, because we'd be picking each other up on each other's microphones, like Lamb's mic could pick me up and vice versa. So what this allowed us to do is have what we now have here, like you saw in the clip of our setup here. You can see the 2 microphones. We don't have Lamb's one up like this anymore, by the way. We have it spun round and in his mush, like I have mine right now. We have both these microphones running into this audio interface you can see in the middle here, which goes into USB into my PC, which is all the way over here. And what this means is that we can record one audio recording that has 2 tracks on it. That is the 2 microphones, and it just means those 2 microphones are perfectly in sync, and there's no issues about, we don't have to worry about Lamb's microphone picking me up, because it's all coming through the same device, and it's all works very nicely. So that's been a great solution for us. These mics are excellent. I don't think you need to spend a load of money on a microphone for streaming. Buy an expensive microphone for, if you're running a studio and recording artists and, making money doing that, I guess. But you don't need to spend loads of money on a microphone. Like I said, these are 50 quid mics, and I don't really see any reason why I would upgrade it. To be honest, right now, I think they work very nicely. Hopefully you agree. I think they sound decent. I think they sound pretty decent. So that's our software and hardware, and let me now talk to you about what we do in OBS to make things sound good, because this makes a huge difference, and hopefully can give you a bit of a guide on how you can manage it. So keep in mind, a lot of this stuff particularly, I learned from just, it's always getting tweaked, and there was years of looking around, looking at YouTube tutorials, reading articles, finding out new things. So it's a kind of evolving process. The things I've done now might still change and get tweaked. They're never quite perfect, but I just wanted to kind of caveat that with that it's a bit of an evolving process, and things can always change in the future. And you can always go and find these things out, and you might find out something that I don't know that might help more. But this is where I've got in 5 years of doing this. I also studied, my degree was in music technology, so I had a bit of a background in audio anyway, coming into doing the channel. But anyway, right, let's have a look at some OBS filters. I reckon if I do this, it's kind of a solution, isn't it? So I wanted to show you my audio filters down here quickly, and then we'll change from this weird camera angle. So in OBS, I have my microphone coming through here. If you just want to see my audio settings, by the way, there's not really anything super useful in here for you, but you can just have a quick look, blah, 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 blah. There's all that, not very interesting. But the interesting stuff is down here. So my filters on OBS here, I use 3. So I use a noise gate, then a compressor, then gain, and that's all I use. And just to talk about what those things are quickly, and then I'll demonstrate the difference they make in the audio whilst we're recording this. So the noise gate basically works by enabling and disabling the microphone's ability to pick up audio, and you use it to try and get rid of quiet background sounds you don't want to get picked up. So, breathing, or maybe a quiet machine noise in the background, or clicking of a controller, or something like that. You're using it to reduce background volume. And that becomes doubly important when you then use a compressor. That's the second one I use. The compressor basically is trying to level the volume of all of the audio that you're sending to the stream, or through your microphone. So what the compressor is doing, it's taking quiet noises that are being picked up and it's making them louder, and it's taking very loud noises that are being picked up and bringing them down a bit, and it's trying to make them all at a certain level, or to make it a lot nicer to listen to. So you'll notice the audio in this all sounds reasonably level. Even if I talk a little bit quieter like this, or I talk really loudly like this, it doesn't sound too crazy, I can move away from the microphone a little bit or a little bit closer in, and it all just sounds, fairly uniform whilst I'm talking. So that's the noise gate and the compressor, and then just on top of that, I have the gain, which just gives me an extra volume control. It's not technically volume, but essentially gain is just controlling the output volume, and that just allows you to, or me to have a kind of global control over the volume of the process sound that's been through the noise gate, been through the compressor, and then the gain I can just tweak a little bit depending on how loud I want the microphone output to be. I've previously tried playing around with, what do they call it in this? You get sound suppression, I think they call it in this. Yeah, noise suppression or noise reduction. You're getting a lot of things, but I don't like noise reduction, noise suppression. For me, it always just makes things sound a little bit weird and digitalized and processed. It's trying to do, it's kind of trying to do a similar thing to noise gate, but it's trying to remove what it thinks are sounds you don't want to come through, rather than not enabling input when sounds are coming through you don't want to hear, if that makes sense. And when you have it on, I find it makes things sound a bit weird and digital, and I don't like the quality of sound that it gives. So these are the ones we use. So just to give you an example, you'll see the difference as I turn these gradually off. So we're going to talk here with just taking the gain off first. So the gain is now turned off. We're going to do a little bit of talking just so you can hear how I sound with the gain off. Then we're going to turn the compressor off, and I'm probably going to sound really quiet. It's going to sound way different even if I shout like that, and then if I talk a bit quietly. And then lastly, if we turn the noise gate off, then you probably don't hear too much of a difference because it's probably just so quiet anyway. So if we pop all those back on again, what would be an interesting one, I think, if we turn just the noise gate off but leave the others on. Or actually, let me put the noise gate on. I'll just go back to my other view for a sec so you can see me here. Oh, hey, Alfie. Alfie's come to help. Right, so we've got all of the filters currently on. Gain, noise gate, and compressor all currently turned on. I'll sit here. I'll sort of, breathe into the microphone. We'll have a bit of a drink. We'll rustle around on the desk. I'll play with this tissue. We'll stroke the dog, all that stuff. If I now turn off the noise gate and we do all those things again, I'll have a drink. We'll do some breathing. We'll click around with the controller, rustle this tissue. You're going to notice lots of other noise gates back on now, by the way. You'll notice the audio that it's blocked out is pretty significant. So it makes a pretty big difference to reducing those background noises you don't want to come through. You don't have to listen to a streamer who's gulping and breathing and making weird guttural noises into the microphone, because no one wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. So just have a quick look at the settings I use on these actual filters, and it's worth noting that these do work in a particular order. So it's important that you have your noise gate first, because if you don't, then your compressor is going to bring up the sound, or it's going to bring up the volume of quiet sounds you don't want first, and then running a noise gate is going to be ineffective. So it is important you do these in a particular order. So for the noise gate, there are tutorials you can look up that explain exactly how these settings work, and I'd recommend probably looking up those for more in-depth detail on how to configure those for yourself. These are just the settings I use. Got 5 dB on the gain here. These are my compressor settings, and this is my noise gate settings. Noise gate is probably the key one here. On compressor, it's mostly about the threshold and the output gain are the two ones, and maybe the ratio, probably the three most important ones there. Gain just has one setting on it. For noise gate, these two at the top are basically controlling when the sound drops in and out. So if you look down at the bottom, and you can see the if I move this so you can actually see it. So you can see the audio bobbing along at the bottom of the screen there. And if I adjust these sliders, so we've got minus 65 dB at the moment. This is the open threshold, minus 50 dB. If I bring this down, la la la, and then suddenly bang, it's picking up range. So you can kind of adjust this as you want. You could sit here and make quiet little noises that you don't want it to pick up, and when you start not picking them up, you kind of know that that's a good range. So you can kind of sit here and twiddle with these until you get to the right kind of range. I can't remember what these are meant to be on. Where's the screenshot? Always remember to take a screenshot. Yeah, minus 65.50. Okay, so we're good. But yeah, that's my settings. Like I said, I think if you're struggling to get your exact settings dialed in on your filters, then check out some YouTube videos that talk about those filters in OBS specifically. I wanted this to be a more general talk about the different things we use to make our audio sound good, rather than, you know, an in-depth guide to specific filters in OBS. So I think that's mostly what I wanted to talk about. Just other general advice. I'd say it's always critical to listen back to what you put out, whether that's streaming or video. Make sure you go back. You don't have to sit there and watch your whole stream, but go back and listen to some bits of your stream and see how it sounds, both on your local recording and actually on Twitch itself or whatever platform you're streaming to, and listen to how it sounds and compare it to what you consider professional content creators, and think about how they're different, if it's as good as it can be, if it's as good as it should be, and what you might be able to do to improve that. Because if you listen back and you realize, you know, whether it sounds a bit echoey, or it keeps picking up me when I'm drinking or when I'm breathing, or you can hear this noise in the background, or maybe it's something more with you and the way you talk and you keep saying a lot, or you keep saying so at the beginning of sentences like I do whenever I'm recording. You keep waving your arms around in the same way like I do when I'm recording, and all these different things. There's so much you can learn just from watching your own stuff back. And I did that kind of unintentionally because we used to do so much YouTube. I was just always editing my own voice all the time, and so I get very used to it. But it is important to go back and listen and watch what you've done and work on that and learn from that. So that's it for this episode for this month is audio. Thank you very much for everyone who's supported us on Patreon. I hope you enjoyed this. If you've got any ideas about what else you'd like me to talk about, feel free to put them in the comments down below. I'll be doing another one of these in December for you guys. So thank you very much for watching. My name's Ben. We are the Beard Guys, and I'll see you next time.